Welcome back to segment 3 of this installment of HipMojo. So in the first 2 segments, we talked about what? We talked about the companies that stood out each year on the internet from 1994 to 2007.
Segment number 1, a lot of companies you don't hear about as much anymore.
Or you still do, but they're not kicking butt like they once did.
Yeah. Segment number 2, some huge media darlings, companies that are big names today. But let's dive right into, I guess, more immediate history.
So let's see. So what happened is I wrote this list in 2007. I remember Henry Blodgett picking it up for his previous 2, Silicon Alley Insider and Business Insider. He was the Internet Outsider on InternetOutsider.com, and he linked up to this. And growing up as a finance student, I was like, yes, pretty cool. Henry Blodgett, former analyst, picks this up. And for whatever reason, WatchMojo started growing, and I forgot to update the list in 2008, 2009, and 2010. So today, we're going to look at which companies stood out. In 2008, I went with Hulu.
Why Hulu?
Hulu launched in 2007, and it was an experiment from the big media companies and a private equity firm. Everybody thought it would fail. TechCrunch called it Clown Corp for the longest time. The fact that Hulu was able to basically bring in a guy like Jason Kilar and let him just do his own thing, and they stepped out of the way, at least early on, was, I think, a surprise to everyone, including the media owners. So I went with Hulu. I think the fact it showed that content is king. It also showed that YouTube, even though if it's going to be number 1, would get some serious competition in video. And I think Hulu deserved a lot of credit. So they were the company of the internet in 2008.
I think it also showed there's still a lot of geographic and regional choke on content distribution and licensing. It's still not available outside the US.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
In 2009, you chose AdMob.
Yeah, so Sequoia, the legendary VCs, funded Omar Hamoui. And basically, what was really interesting about Hamoui's approach was he did not launch a mobile ad network, which is basically what AdMob was. He did not launch that and grow it by going through the carriers who, let's face it, have a chokehold on all things wireless. He actually went through the developers, right? So with the iPhone and with the BlackBerry market and the Android market developing and all these developers creating these apps, he basically appealed to them, and he basically let them monetize their apps. And that's how he grew to the point that Google bought them for $750 million. Now, Hamoui left less than 1 year after the acquisition by Google, but the fact that today Google can claim that it's sort of mobile business anchored with Android and all that stuff is generating over $1 billion. I think a lot of that credit goes to their foresight in buying AdMob. It was also a defensive move. Word has it that Apple was looking at the company, but Steve Jobs was not very quick at moving ahead with the due diligence. So Google came in and bought them.
Well, Google's very good at taking an existing platform and monetizing it with ad revenue. Anyways, that brings us to 2010 this year. I hate this pick, but you chose Groupon.
Yeah, well, first of all, 2010 is last year. But that being said, Groupon started off as the sort of community site called The Point. And they've had this very sort of funny, irreverent story based in Chicago. Groupon, I think in 2010, regardless of what you think of their business model, regardless of what you think as the stock once it IPOs, if it IPOs, regardless of what you think about how it handles the SEC regulations, Groupon was the story of the year in 2010. That revenue growth was massive. I think once they started to open the kimono and tell us what their business model looked like, there were more cynicism. But 2010, I think it was Groupon.
So what's funny is I would have had a different pick in 2010, and I know, and it's the pick that's nowhere on this list, and that's Apple. So why no Apple?
Yeah, so I mean, Apple's a great company. Apple, I think, legitimately can be the, forget tech or internet, the company of the 21st century, right? I just never really viewed, at least until 2007 when I wrote this article initially, I never viewed Apple as an internet company. They were a technology company, a hardware, software company, maybe with like a big inclination towards media, but I always viewed them as trying to circumvent the web. So it was very hard for me to go out there and say, you're the internet company of the year, assuming they cared what I had to say, because, think of the App Store. Think of, the whole walled garden philosophy.
I can agree in that sense. They're not a web company per se. They're definitely a cloud company. But if you look at all the major players, they're all trying to circumvent or close the web. Apple does it with iTunes and with the iPhone. Google's doing it with Android. They want everything to go through Gmail, through their search, through Google+. That's another story. And even Facebook's doing it with Facebook Marketplace. Everyone wants your primary point of access to be through their portal. So
listen, I'm not saying Apple should not be on this list. Au contraire, I think since the iPhone, since the iPad, since frankly, like you said, the shift to cloud and some of the acquisitions they've made, I think Apple, if you were to look at the sort of company of the decade of the internet, I think Apple may even be that company, or Facebook or Google, which takes us to 2011. So this year, we're going to actually open this up, and we're going to have you guys, the viewers, vote at least for 33% of the final decision. who you think should be the company, the online internet company of the year in 2011. You will get 33% of the vote. I will get 33% of the vote. If we're all tied somehow, that one last percent goes to who knows who.
We'll flip a coin.
We'll flip a coin, basically. So you get to vote. We're going to have the usual suspects. So all of the old ones, Google, Facebook, even MySpace will be on that list maybe.
Any of the new disruptors?
But also the Vivos, the Huffington Posts. And we're going to also let all the old winners basically participate. And that vote will be available on HipMojo.com, and check out for that. And we'll do that show probably sometime in December. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and we're going to basically do lightning round and email of the week right after this.